Deliberations with the Minister of Romy addressing various concerns related to the ministry. Brugg pushes back against URSM resignation demand, alleges double standards in party. Marinka Gums, Minister of Finance on the future of the Monetary Union of CBCS. Stat and General Audit Chamber clarify scope of audit on official statistics. From the island, St. Martin, this is SXM Daily News for April 2, 2026. Deliberations with the Minister of Romy on the solid waste tenders and the current state of garbage collection across St. Martin. Concerns from prospective garbage haulers with the 2026 to 2029 terms of reference and short and long-term solutions for solid waste management for the country. Agenda Point 2 was requested by MPs F. Blackrose, MPOEC. Otley, MPEJ. Duran, MPAMR. Irian, MPDTJ. York and MPLCJ. Lewis, and Agenda Point 3 was requested by MPFA. Lacrose, MPOEC. Otley, and MPLCJ. Lewis on Wednesday, April 1st, 2026.
The request is clear. All right, I'm one of the individuals that been hammering publicly on social media, also in the past to the minister himself, sending him pictures, sending him all the different elements that are going on, pertaining to the bad roads, pertaining to the garbage, pertaining to the dump. Madam Chair, enough is enough. We need answers from the minister because so far I'm only seeing a back and forth, I'm only seeing sassiness. And the people of St. Martin should not deserve sassiness, but deserve answers to our questions and execution on behalf of the people for the betterment. Because if things are being executed, Madam Chair, it's not being executed the way I think it should be. And as a representative of the people of this country, I'm here to stand for one and for all. Thank you, Madam Chair.
With regards to the meeting agenda, deliberation with the Minister of Romy on the solid waste tenders and the current state of garbage collection across St. Martin, concerns from prospective garbage haulers with the 2026-2029 terms of reference and short and long-term solutions for solid waste management for the country, I propose to handle these under three subheadings. In subheading 1, we will zoom in on the solid waste tenders, firstly outlining the terms of reference and the timeline from inception to launch. Secondly, discuss the tender information session along with key dates. Thirdly, provide key data as of the date of bid closure and the evaluation process. And fourth and finally, provide the solutions that we came up to due to tender's failure and subsequent next steps. In subheading 2, we will zoom out and look at the current state of garbage collection, beginning firstly with an overview of the current waste collection arrangements. Secondly, we'll look at the current waste ordinance, the legal document that sets out the do's and don'ts of waste on St. Martin. Thirdly, we will examine challenges from a financial, material, and administrative perspective, and will then present short and long-term solutions to these challenges. Finally, in subsection 3, we will end with a broader view of the future of the waste sector, focusing largely on the status of the Emergency Debris Management Program, EDMP, and related initiatives. In drafting the terms of reference, the ministry undertook a complete review of long-standing complaints from both the haulers, St. Martin residents, as well as gave due concern to the grievances and recommendations outlined in the Ombudsman's report on solid waste tenders 2021-2026. From July 2024 to February 2025, 3 ministerial meetings were held with the haulers to outline ongoing performance and how the ministry and haulers could align to enhance service. One of the key concerns of the haulers was that they often felt targeted and that there exists no consequence for residents who don't follow the rules. While the government acknowledged that surveillance of individuals who incorrectly dump at waste disposal sites was challenging, the presence of the same item of waste over the course of 2, 3, or even 7 days was much easier controlled than an isolated disposal event. Haulers also communicated their frustration with accessibility issues in some neighborhoods, which speaks to a larger issue of poor spatial planning and unenforced building codes. Government took this into consideration when drafting a tender and presented solutions, including the introduction of a camera system. This was intended to ensure a neutral and objective view of garbage collection. The final draft was submitted to the SG and myself on November 28, 2025, and the tour was made available to the public at a cost of 360 guilders per applicant. The solid waste tender, information session, and key dates. On January 7, 2026, the Ministry of ROMI hosted a mandatory information session on the tender. In the session, the terms of reference were reviewed and read out page per page for all interested bidders. Staff from the department outlined all aspects of the tender, including requirements, as well as the grounds for disqualification. Interested bidders were given 24 hours to submit their questions to the ministry. The ministry received a total of 111 questions from 10 companies. All bids were submitted on January 28, 2026. Evaluation began with a team consisting of persons from the Ministry of ROMI and Finance. On January 29th and 30th, the evaluation committee carried out the knockout round. In this round, bidders who did not meet the requirements to be eligible to submit a bid were removed from the evaluation round. This evaluation was carried out based on the requirements stipulated in the tour. On February 2nd, the evaluation committee met and discussed the results of the knockout round with the intention to begin the evaluation process, the aim of which was to end evaluation on February 6th and conclude awarding on February 15th. On February 4th, the evaluation committee sent a memo to the SG and myself informing us that following an initial review, knockout round, the majority of the 17 bidders, well, all of the 17 bidders, failed to meet the mandatory eligibility requirements. This meant that the proposed conclusion awarding, as seen on the screen, could not take place. In its memo, the evaluation committee proposed the following recommendations: to allow the resubmission of potential documents, to host an information session, and 3, new legal advice. Upon receipt of the recommendations, discussions began around what mistakes were eligible for correction, as some bidders didn't sign all documents while others did. In some instances, some bidders did not include the right parcel map and others didn't have the correct documentation details listed. As such, the decision of what would be correctable and what not would mean deciding that parts of the tour were binding and which were not. Doing this would mean changing the tour mid-evaluation and would constitute a significant ethical challenge. In its June 2022 final report, the Ombudsman concluded that certain provisions in terms of reference, especially those related to the original business license and pricing components, disproportionately affected some contractors while benefiting others. The report highlighted a lack of attention from the ministry, even when it became apparent that certain contractors could not meet tour requirements post-nomination, but also pre-contract signing. To ensure a level and fair evaluation, all disqualifications must therefore be considered equal. Taking a decision on what is correctable, applying a new approach in the middle of an evaluation, and continuing with any potential awarding would have cast a negative light on this tender and may have risked this tender being deemed unfair and non-transparent. Solutions and next steps. On Wednesday, March 18th, I announced the failure of the solid waste tender, a tender along with a way forward. Subsequently, it came to my attention that the bidders were not officially informed ahead of the public announcement. This was due to miscommunication related to the district cleaning tender and the solid waste tender. In response, the ministry called a meeting with the bidders. Unfortunately, the short notice didn't allow for most to be present. In response, as minister, I called a subsequent meeting with the bidders to apologize for the miscommunication and to outline the next steps to be taken by the ministry. During this meeting, bidders expressed their frustration, but also the desired path forward. This will be followed up with an additional technical session with the bidders next week. the ministry contracted the services of Grant Thornton. The scope of their assignment is to review the tender with special attention to the financial components of market analysis as well as overall process. This decision was taken to ensure an objective review that would provide a comprehensive way forward.
MPs responded to the deliberations with the Minister of Romy addressing various concerns related to the ministry at the Parliament public meeting on April 1st, 2026.
The thing I was missing, though, I heard you state that the bidders were not communicated to, and when you had the meeting, there was an oversight within Romy and communicating certain aspects to the haulers. You publicly blamed the haulers the last time as well when you were here, but I was missing the public apology as well to the haulers for making a mistake on the ministry's end. When it comes to car wrecks, you mentioned that as well. What is the procedure? And maybe if there's an email address or phone number that persons can contact the ministry to be able, because I know there has been a abandoned van or something by St. Dominic High School for, I think, the beginning of the school year. And it's still there. I don't know if they contacted the ministry pertaining to it, or if it's maybe on a private property, and maybe that's why the ministry is not able to take it. But it's also taking up the parking spaces, which parents can then park or faculty can park safely. Minister, you also mentioned, through you, Madam Chair, there were some documents that were not signed. Could you maybe elaborate on it? Were they just regular documents, or were they documents pertaining, like official documents from Economic Affairs, SZV, the Chamber? Because I can understand how persons wouldn't sign an official document coming from an official institution, because technically that makes it null and void officially. Like, I wouldn't sign my, on my passport that, or if I get a registration form from, the government building, that I would sign it to say, yeah, it's mine, because it came from an official entity. So if persons were disqualified for not signing official documents, I see that that could be an issue or something that they can oppose. But I just would like to clarify if it were official documents or just general documents. So,
Madam Chair, today is April 1st. And I'd like to start by asking the Minister, through you, how he slept last night. The reason why, Madam Chair, we have over 100 plus individuals that I believe didn't sleep so good last night because yesterday the contract was up where they lose their work as district cleaners. So right now, the Minister has single-handedly added over 100 plus individuals to the unemployment, whereas government's supposed to be looking out for its people. So I just would like to know how the Minister slept last night. Madam Chair, the Minister could have put out a bid. That didn't happen. With garbage, it was an extension given. That could have been done with district cleaning. But the Minister opted not to do it. To be honest, I'll just say here on the floor what I heard. I heard that a selective group are busy preparing to start to do the works until the new bid comes out, and certain persons in the coalition had the opportunity to bring forward some names. Whether it be so, allegedly, it could not be so. Regardless to what, he didn't ask some of you. You see that? That ain't good. So with that being said, Madam Chair, it is unfortunate that over 100 plus individuals lost their job yesterday because of negligence, incompetence, and a whole mixture of all the different things because the Minister chose not to put out a tender. And I'm not saying that the same individuals that have it had to get it, but I'm saying that somebody had to have the opportunity because these jobs have existed for over 15 years, and now you just take it all away and let them without a job. We're talking about 100 and something families. I just want to emphasize that. And the reason why I'm so passionate about it, Madam Chair, is because I'm not receiving calls from contractors. I'm actually receiving calls from workers looking for jobs and opportunities. You understand? It's not easy. We have an economy right now where before we went away last week at Palatino, 90 guilders or 94 guilders was to full a basic Hyundai Elantra, and I paid 140 guilders on Sunday. So that's a harsh reality that's dealing with. And what does this government do? Add to the problem by unemploying 100 plus individuals, and have a serious, serious problem with that concern. Anyhow, Madam Chair, I'll go over now to some questions that I have. Madam Chair, I would like to request a complete list of all roads that were executed from 2020 to now. So from 2020 to April of 2026, dated when they were executed, road repairs. Madam Chair, there has been no road structured maintenance plans since 2024, absolutely none. I heard the minister mention in my absence last week or the week before that because of a 500,000 guilder depth to, I would assume, Winter Road, because that's the only company that has an asphalt plant, they are no longer willing to work with government, and based on this, the emergency works couldn't take place in Sucker Garden that could have prevented the accident that took place with the police officers, whereas you have a police officer so severely injured right now. I think he's on his third operation, hip broke, shoulder broke, and again, without acknowledging the wrong or the negligence or the refusal to repair the road because the minister knew about the problem. I brought it to the attention of the ministry directly to a staff member. It was brought to the attention of the minister. Former MP Clyde Marlin put out an article that was public, and the minister did absolutely nothing to remedy the situation. Even in separate private settings, I allegedly heard that the minister says because the police don't have the proper training on how to drive. Madam Chair, that sends a signal of no sense of accountability. MP Waverd hit the nail on the head. The minister publicly chastised the haulers and said they didn't do a good job in bidding and everything was wrong. But then come here today and say that there was an oversight on communication from the ministry. So who's fooling who? I didn't get the same energy, and MP Lewis called it sassy. I didn't get the same energy that was explained during me sitting here a couple of weeks ago, where you chastise them for not doing correct, but you don't acknowledge, through you, Madam Chair, that you fail as a minister. In basketball, when the whole team fail, the coach go. The coach have to go.
News from the Daily Herald. The board of the Unified Resilient St. Martin Movement, URSM, has requested the immediate resignation of Minister of Public Health, Social Development and Labor Reginald Brugg, citing concerns over integrity and alleged conflicts within his cabinet. The minister has rejected the request, stating it is based on assumptions, unfounded allegations, and a blatant disregard for the truth, and has made clear he will not resign. In its March 26, 2026, letter, the URSM board, led by President Brenda Brooks, stated it had lost all confidence in Brugg's ability to serve and formally withdrew its support for both his role in government and his membership in the party. The board pointed to a pattern of conduct raising concerns about governance, cohesion, and respect for collective responsibility, as well as what it described as unresolved issues involving conflicting roles within his cabinet, particularly concerning his chief of staff. The board also cited Brugg's repeated public posture, which it said included statements and actions that contradicted and challenged the authority of Prime Minister and party leader Dr. Luc Merslina, further eroding trust. It argued that these actions reflected a disregard for the standards of unity and disciplined governance expected within the Council of Ministers. Central to the board's concerns were allegations of conflicts of interest involving contracts with Czar Management and Consulting B.V., a company linked to the husband of a senior official within the ministry. According to the board, a contract valued at CG 48,510 for 6 weeks was concluded, while payments allegedly exceeded CG 83,000. It further claimed that a tender for the Mental Health Foundation, MHF, technical expert appeared tailor-made and that, despite warnings, including correspondence referencing restrictions on civil servants doing business with government through spouses' companies, Brugg failed to take corrective action.
I also, in case you members have not yet been informed, and the general public, because I know that the schedule of Parliament is public, we had another meeting scheduled for this afternoon that had to be cancelled on the basis of the request of the minister who was requested to be here present. That's the Minister of VSA, Minister Brugge, and who indicated in communication to via our secretariat, via his office to our secretariat, that unfortunately he cannot be present. I do want to add, because maybe it is the intention of the minister that that be added, that it's due to being ill. So I just wanted to state that. And so members, ladies and gentlemen, the meeting scheduled for this afternoon will not continue, and I will update, of course, the Parliament as well as the people of St. Martin when that will take place. And then, as I said before, members of Parliament, you will be informed as soon as possible about the continuation of this meeting. This meeting is hereby adjourned until further notice. Meeting adjourned.
More on Marinka Gums, Minister of Finance, with a delegation, is to travel to Grenada and discuss the future of the monetary union of CBCS.
Currency oversight. Similarly, the bank maintains the external value of the Caribbean guilder. It ensures the health of the financial system through regulatory oversight. Ministerial oversight. The ministers of finance of both Curaçao and St. Martin are involved in oversight and coordination. The CBCS statute defines the roles of both individual ministers based on joint decisions. And operational independence. While jointly governed, the bank operates with a degree of autonomy to fulfill its mandate effectively. Against this background, Madam Chair, the CBCS has had moments of stability, but its overall performance has been uneven. Several issues have repeatedly surfaced. Let me highlight some of them here. Governance imbalances. From the onset, the Supervisory Board of Directors has been dominated by Curaçao, although the CBCS statute calls for equal representation. The political reality thus far has been that Curaçao has had a more significant influence and control. The current tension, it seems to me, has emerged because of St. Martin's assertiveness to ensure that the spirit and letter of the CBCS statute are upheld where it concerns the configuration of the Supervisory Board of Directors. You will recall, Madam Chair, that not too long ago, my head was literally on the chopping block for my audacity to grab the bull by the horns where the SBOD had, at best, been dragging its feet concerning the appointment of its chair. Of course, the status quo favors Curaçao, and whatever blame we could assign to St. Martin for not ensuring that it has its full complement of 3 members on the SBOD, the fact still remains that even if it did, the chairperson has always been from Curaçao. I will not belabor this issue any further, but suffice to say, Madam Chair, that we are where we are now today because Curaçao believes that due to its larger population, a larger financial sector, and its majority shareholding in the CBCS, all of these should translate into it having full control. It's like going into a marital union in which the partner that makes the largest contribution calls all the shots. That was never the intention when St. Martin agreed to establishing a joint central bank with Curaçao. Madam Chair, the argument of size has always resulted in a might is right attitude, at least from the vantage point of the smaller partner. It is what led to the dissolution of the West Indies Federation. It is what forced Aruba to leave the 6-island constellation of the Netherlands Antilles. In fact, it is what shattered the so-called Antilles of 5, resulting in the ultimate breakup of the Netherlands Antilles. I might add, Madam Chair, it is also what continues to call into question our so-called equal partnership within the kingdom, something we now refer to as a democratic deficit.
Are you SXV insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXV is cardless. Request your My SXV account today and enter the virtual office of SXV. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
SXV, yeah, your social health insurances.
In recent years, the cooperation between the Netherlands, Aruba, Curaçao, and Sint Maarten within the country packages has actually contributed to setting reforms in motion. This is the conclusion of an independent evaluation committee that has conducted research in the past months. However, structural reforms also require more time, according to the committee. At the end of 2020, separate arrangements were agreed on between the Netherlands and each of the countries about the financial support provided by the Netherlands during the COVID-19 pandemic. They were related to government reforms. The arrangements about the reforms were established in so-called country packages. Since early 2021, Aruba, Curaçao, and Sint Maarten have been working on these reforms. They are assisted in it by the Temporary Work Organization, 2, of the Ministry of the Interior and Kingdom Relations. In April 2023, this cooperation obtained a legal basis following the conclusion of the Mutual Regulation for Cooperation on Reforms. Objectives: country packages still on track. The objective of the cooperation strengthening of the economic resilience and administrative power of the countries is still on track, according to the committee. The country packages consist of far-reaching reforms in many areas, from the improvement of the quality of education and the entrepreneurial climate up to and including the modernization of the tax office and the government services. All these reforms had to be prepared and implemented simultaneously. This, combined with limited implementation capacity on Aruba, Curaçao, and Sint Maarten, and the aftermath of the COVID-19 crisis, made the implementation time-consuming and complex. At the same time, the committee notes that progress has been made on projects that had previously struggled to get off the ground. This is due to the mutual establishment of what projects had to be implemented. In this regard, the countries were in control and were supported. Reporter asked the Minister of Tourism, Economic Affairs, Transport, and Telecommunication. The understanding is that you received communication from Seoul that fuel prices were going to increase. The previous conversations about NVGEBE are doing that. The dimension of the fuel clause was to manage the variable cost for the business. But then, in reality, as the field prices go up,
right now we have with the legal affairs, the legislation, the draft legislation for BTPU, for BTP to become the regulator of utility, which is the U for utility, for GEBE. So at this point in time, no, BTP has no authority to do any sort of regulations. But what we are doing as a Ministry of TIAT is in constant discussions and talks with the GEBE pertaining to the fuel prices spiking and monitoring, of course, the rate. So that's the most we can do from this ministry, but the idea is to also monitor as it spikes what it means for them and in, of course, the fuel cost as well for the people of St. Martin.
Because there were actually 2 reports generated within the past year which indicated that indeed GB was making profits
Yes.
off of the fuel clause, which
Yes.
was not the intention.
Which is not the intention. That's correct.
Also, the BTP has an element of consumer protection in terms of commerce.
Correct.
Right? And one of the complaints that I see and hear very often is about tax assessments. As I don't know if the public's aware, but there's a 5-year period on taxes. So very often what happens is as that 5-year mark approaches, the tax department just sends sort of blank assessments. So it means that there's not necessarily anything credible in terms of why they're putting an assessment. They're just putting out a placeholder, which costs the public, costs businesses time and money to answer those assessments.
Mm-hmm.
Is this something that you're willing to look at under BTP as well, under consumer protection legislation?
We're actually, in essence, as a TWO project, working on a consumer protection law in general. So, of course, these are the type of things, of course, that will be taken up in general. It'll be a full blanket approach on everything consumer, of course, when that law is enacted. So it's a law that we're doing separately from BTP. BTP's responsibility is mainly based on the consumers of telecommunication in general. But the idea is that this government will be presenting a draft law on consumer protection in general as well for the people of St. Martin.
All indications are that the high season for tourism this year has been a positive, a robust
Very positive.
one.
Yep.
Can I ask what the ministry is doing in terms of promotions to ensure that the shoulder season and low season are also robust?
Well, the idea right now, what we've just next week, I think it's next week, we're going to be having an inaugural flight from Southwest. So that's a new airline coming in. Southwest is going to be coming in from, the inaugural flight will be from Orlando, directly from Orlando, and I think a few weeks later, we'll be doing Baltimore/Washington. That, I forgot the name of the airport that is adjacent to both Baltimore and Washington. So that's a new flight that we're launching right as a closing of the season, of the shoulder season, and of course boosting promotions online with because that's what we did last year, and it's worked for us, and we're going to do it this year again. More promotions online, and launching a brand new commercial very soon on I don't want to let the cat out of the bag yet, but a brand new commercial is going to be coming out very soon again that we're going to launch throughout the summer, or just in time for the summer, about families coming to St. Martin. So a lot on social media. New airlines coming in, and I think that worked for us, giving the little budget that we had. We like to call ourselves the little engine that could, because can I say it? Usually all the big dogs, like the Ministry of Justice and the Ministry of Education, they usually come knocking on my door to assist. But we do it what we can, and the idea is to focus more and leverage everything on social media for the shoulder season, and of course discuss with the hotels and see what we can get, just the standard stuff. But from what I'm hearing, Emily, this coming summer, and these into the slow season, most hotels are booked. I don't know how your numbers are looking, given your background, but the hotels are looking beautiful for the summer, and you could hardly say that we're going to have a shoulder season this summer. How the numbers are looking thus far.
the weather forecast. Tonight through Friday midday, partly cloudy to cloudy with isolated showers. Surface winds, today through Friday midday, east-northeasterly. With a light to moderate breeze at 7 to 14 miles per hour. State of the SEA, slight to moderate waves/swells, 2 to 5 feet. Outlook through Saturday midday, partly cloudy to cloudy and slightly breezy with scattered showers. And now your 3-day forecast.
Are you SXM insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXM is cardless. Request your My SXM account today and enter the virtual office of SXM. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
Your social health insurances.
The Department of Statistics, STAT, in collaboration with the General Audit Chamber, wishes to clarify the scope and intended interpretation of the recently published audit concerning the environment in which official statistics are produced in St. Martin. This clarification is necessary in light of recent public commentary and media coverage that may have created the impression that the audit concluded that St. Martin's official statistics are inaccurate or unreliable. That interpretation is incorrect. The audit reviewed the institutional, operational, and resource environment in which STAT carries out its work, including matters such as staffing, governance, data access, stakeholder coordination, documentation, and internal processes. Importantly, the audit did not test, validate, or verify the accuracy of STAT's published statistical figures or outputs. The report itself makes clear that the review focused on the conditions under which statistics are produced, rather than on testing the figures already published. A clear distinction must therefore be made between the operating environment in which official statistics are produced and the technical methodologies and standards used in the production of those statistics. Although the General Audit Chamber did not test statistical outputs, STAT mentions it continues to produce official statistics using internationally recognized scientific and statistical methodologies, including established approaches to sampling, weighting, estimation, and validation. These methods are aligned with accepted international standards and are supported, where relevant, through technical collaboration with recognized institutions such as Cartac and Statistics Netherlands, CBS. The Department of Statistics also states its commitment to operating in accordance with the United Nations fundamental principles of official statistics, which guide the production of official data based on professionalism, scientific rigor, impartiality, and transparency. The audit identifies important areas where the broader statistical system can and should be strengthened, particularly in relation to staffing, documentation, data sharing arrangements, quality control procedures, and interagency coordination. These findings are constructive and relevant to the continued development of the national statistical system. They do not constitute a finding that the official statistics currently published by STAT have been invalidated or found to be inaccurate. Reliability of statistics does not depend only on final figures, but on the systems, resources, and controls behind them. The audit, therefore, focused on whether those conditions are in place. As with national statistical offices worldwide, STAT relies in part on data received from households, businesses, and partner institutions across both the public and private sectors. Timely, complete, and consistent cooperation from these stakeholders remains essential to maintaining a strong, responsive, and resilient national statistical system. In this regard, the audit's recommendations support the continued strengthening of the broader environment in which official statistics are produced. STAT and the General Audit Chamber therefore underscore that the report should be understood as a constructive assessment aimed at strengthening the systems, coordination, and institutional conditions that support official statistics in St. Martin. It was also the intention that, based on the findings of the audit, the government will facilitate the STAT Department with the necessary resources needed to execute its responsibility. It should not be interpreted as a conclusion that the official statistics themselves were tested and found to be unreliable. STAT remains committed to transparency, continuous improvement, and the production of high-quality official statistics that support sound policymaking, informed public dialogue, and national development. To this end, the STAT Department is presently acquiring technical support for 1 year throughout the Country Package project to further strengthen and improve the technical aspects of the department. On March 31, 2026, the Central Bank Van Curaçao in St. Martin, CBCS, decided to maintain its monetary policy stance unchanged. This decision reflects a cautious approach in response to heightened uncertainty surrounding the potential spillover effects of the ongoing conflict in the Middle East on commodity and financial markets, and the resulting impact on the monetary union. This stance is also consistent with the U.S. Federal Reserve's decision, Fed, in March to keep the target range for the federal funds rate is unchanged. In the current environment of heightened uncertainty, the CBCS will continue to monitor domestic and international economic developments closely and stands ready to adjust its monetary policy as needed. Despite heightened uncertainties and volatility in the global environment, gross official reserves have continued to increase in 2026 after rising substantially by CG 402.2 million in 2025. Up to March 13, 2026, gross official reserves have increased by CG 102.2 million, bringing the import coverage to a comfortable 5.3 months. The external position is expected to remain solid by year-end, with reserves projected to increase by CG 161.8 million and the average import coverage reaching 5.2 months, well above the norm of 3 months. Nevertheless, the first time in more than 50 years, the United States is sending astronauts back toward the moon. NASA launched Artemis II from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, sending a crew of 4 astronauts on a 10-day voyage. If all goes as planned, they will travel farther into space than any humans before them. Miles O'Brien was there for the launch and joined Amna Nawaz to discuss the mission.
And we want to reiterate here, of course, these astronauts are not going to land on the moon. That's the work of Artemis 4 down the line. So what do they hope to pull from this that will help lead and help inform future missions?
This is about wringing out the potential bugs in the space capsule, learning how to live in it, how to, eat in it, how to cook food, how to go to the bathroom, make sure everything works well. And then ultimately, the most important thing is, will that heat shield do its job when they return? It has to endure 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit heat as it comes in. And on Artemis 1, they had some problems with it. They made some redesigns and changed the flight plan. Hopefully that won't be an issue.
So there's a lot at stake for these 4 astronauts. There's some firsts aboard that craft as well. Tell us a little bit about the 4 astronauts on board this mission.
It's one of the tightest crews I've ever seen. Reed Weissman, Navy test pilot, Glover, who is his pilot and who is a Navy test pilot as well. He is the first African-American to go to the moon. Christina Cook, who is the first woman to go to the moon. And we have a Canadian astronaut who is the first Canadian to go to the moon. So it is a diverse crew, a crew that has been training for quite some time for this moment. And we'll see how they do in space.
This is our SXM Daily Newscast. Thank you for joining us.